Hey gang, AV here, and welcome to my review of the Predator 2 Shadow Predator from Hiya Toys. Here he is in the box. It's a window box, so you can see the majority of his accessories. This is the front. This is the side. This is the back. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like to read it. Here's the other side. Here's the top. There's the bottom. And that's it for the box. Let's get them out. I've already cut the tape and removed the figure previously. And as usual, let's look at the other stuff that comes in the box first. He comes with a little leaflet here, which shows you the other figures available. It's two-sided. Some of these have already been released. The other ones are pre-order. And he also has this background card, which is the same for all three of the figures I've gotten so far. Nothing on the back. Let's get these back in the box. All right. And the figure comes in a two-part plastic tray. Keeps them very secure. Nothing rattles around in there. Just lift the top part off. And you have access to the figure itself. As usual, let's look at the accessories first. Here is his spear, which is the same mold as we've seen previously, but it has different paint applications on it, so it does look different. Very well sculpted right down to the barbs on the ends. It's a very cool piece. That was the spear fully extended. Here it is collapsed. Again, a lot of nice detail on this as well. And again, it's got slightly different paint applications to differentiate it from the others that have come out so far. He comes with his trophy, signature trophy, human skull, spine, and tailbone attached. Very nice molded detail with some paint applications on it as well. Very cool. He has his own throwing disc, this time in silver, with a spot on his belt for him to store this. We'll get to that when we get the figure out. It does have unique molded details on either side, and holes throughout it for you to put the fingers through, which I will attempt to demonstrate right now with one of his spare hands. Sometimes it's a little easier said than done, but usually it doesn't give you too much grief. As you can see, there you go. It's laced between the figure's fingers, so he can actually hold his disc. Very cool. Like that accessory. Let's have a look at his hand first. He comes with two sets of extra hands, so 3 pairs of hands total. All 3 pairs have different poses, depending on how you want to pose your figure. He has a grasping hands. He has like a loose grasping hand, like this one, which you just saw you can use for the disc. And it also works well with holding his spear. As you can see, has very nice painted details on it. All the hands are painted with as much attention. Same as his feet. And he has a figure stand, which is pretty standard for the line. Same basic figure stand. Single foot peg, molded detail, same color. But what's cool is he also comes with these capital I or capital H shaped brackets, which you can plug into the notches on any side of this thing so that you can connect it to other figure stands and make a floor for your display, which is a great touch in my opinion. And now let's have a look at the figure himself. Oh, almost forgot. He has one other accessory. Another trophy. This alien skull. Not the xenomorph alien, some other type of alien. But this is another trophy he comes with. Very nice molded detail on this. Nice paint apps too. You can tell they went with a nice wash on here to pull out the details on it. Very cool. All right, now let's get the figure himself out of here. My cat's messing around over there. All right, so here he is. Let's have a look at his details first. This is the unmasked version with the open mouth. Main reason why I purchased this figure, frankly. This is like a fake fur. Feels like fur when you touch it. It's very cool. It's not just plastic. This kind of reminds me of Moss Man from the Masters of the Universe, if you're familiar with that reference. Feels kind of like that. So very nice paint apps. Some unique sculpt on this figure too from the other figures I have. But unfortunately, there are some paint errors on this particular one. My copy, at least. I'm not sure how yours will turn out. But as you can see, they forgot to paint the back of his knee there. And there's a chip out of his rib cage right here. This figure is my least favorite out of the 3 that I have because he does have some flaws. Not just in the paint, but also in his articulation. And that's one of the main problems with this line. Is that if you look, if you can see his T-bar in there, the figure is basically molded in that color plastic, the whole figure. And then they paint all the other colors onto them. And while the paint applications are fantastic, the fact that they do that when the paint is wet, sometimes it gets into the joints and it makes the joints freeze. And unfortunately, because it's a relatively soft plastic, you really have to heat it up with a hair dryer or with hot water and then try to crack the paint while the plastic is still rubbery in order to free up that articulation. So on this particular figure, for example, right out of the box, this bicep swivel right here, that was frozen, like hopelessly frozen. And I was afraid I was going to break it. I really had to heat him up for a good 2 minutes, 3 minutes with the hairdryer just to crack it open. And it was scary when I did that because I didn't know if it was going to break it or not. Same can be said for this thigh. Same situation. I had to heat it up for like 3 minutes. It was very scary turning it because he's supposed to have an upper thigh swivel like that. And unfortunately, I did break that, so I had to glue that back on. He doesn't really turn at the upper thigh anymore. That rocking you see there, that's actually at his hip. So, and his ankles, both of his ankles were frozen as well, so I had to heat them up and then crack them to actually make them pivot up and down. So, as far as articulation goes, he has excellent articulation, but because of the nature of how they actually put these figures together over in China, you do have to be very careful. The paint applications, as awesome as they are, can damage the articulation of these figures, unfortunately. So when you first open them up, as you take them out of the box, you have to be very careful. You have to, if anything feels stiff or tight or it just doesn't feel like it's bending like it's supposed to, Don't force it. Heat it up. Make sure it's warm, and then do your best to crack it open. I did have an issue with one of my Zombie Lab figures a while back, and I did contact the company, and they did, or Locker Toys, I believe it was, and they did send me out a replacement part to fix it. So the customer service, at least for these companies, is very good. They understand the drawbacks, and they want you to be happy with their product. They put a lot of effort into the detail and the paint and everything. They want you to love these things. So don't take it too hard if your stuff breaks. Just make sure you contact them. But I can't stress it enough. Just be careful, because even when you're careful, it can break. And you have to know that going in. So let's talk about his articulation. He's got these dreadlocks, which are very soft plastic, and as you can see, they snap right back into the position. So they don't hinder his articulation at all. He can do a full 360 at the neck. He can look down pretty far. He can look up pretty decently too. His shoulder articulation is hindered by his shoulder pads here, especially on this arm. But he can put that arm up about that far. He can put that arm up about that far, just to put it in perspective for you. His bicep swivel should do a full 360. Like I said, out of the box, that one was frozen, and I wasn't sure I was ever going to get it undone. It just took a few minutes and some patience, but I got it. Elbows bend 90 degrees. Unlike the other Predator figures which I reviewed, he does not have a gauntlet swivel. I guess because he's just wearing like leather wraps here. So it's not one, it's just all one piece, his forearm. There's no articulation there. His hands are on a ball joint, good range of motion there. And as you can see, they can pop off, so you can pop on the new hands. Speaking of which, I don't think I showed off his fully opened hand when I was talking about the extra hands earlier. So we'll just pop that one on for the sake of the review, so that you can see it and see how easy they can go on and off. There you go. He has a ab crunch, which gives him a decent range of motion right there. Nothing at the waist. His hips can go out about that far. They are actually pretty hindered by these things, unlike the other figures. He can do the can about like that. Again, hindered by his belt. He has an upper thigh swivel up here. You can do 360 with it. Knees, double jointed, so you can fold them in half like that. His ankles can swivel 360, and they do have a pivot up and down. So very good articulation on this guy. Not as good as the other figure, the other Predator figures I've had, specifically the City Hunter. But decent. I mean, you can get him in some very cool poses, so that's a plus. He is missing some of his gear, some of the iconic stuff like the shoulder-mounted cannon and the gauntlet blades, but he comes with some unique stuff too, like that giant alien skull. Let's plug this in here just so you can see it. You gotta look at the detail on the inside, try to match it up as best you can. There you go. It plugs in there. For some reason, this guy's plugs in there very securely, as opposed to the City Hunter and the translucent one, which I've also reviewed, the invisible one. This guy, it fits in there very nice. I'm not worried about that falling out at all. All right. Let's stand him up. Oh yeah, he also comes with a little satchel with his some bones on it. The necklace, which also has bones, is actually part of this fake fur thing. There's also fake fur here, just because I forgot to mention it. And you also want to watch, too, occasionally these knee pads can pop off. They've just popped right back on, though, so I wouldn't worry about it. Alright, let's do a size comparison now while I've got the figure out. And I've got a couple other figures handy. Let's do a size comparison with a modern era G.I. Joe. As you can see, the Predator towers over the modern G.I. Joe because Predators are about 7.5 feet tall. He is a genuine 1/18 scale figure, even though he is noticeably taller. So, believe it or not, that's accurate. That's the way he's supposed to look. Here he is with a vintage G.I. Joe, just so you can see the difference. Alright, and just because I've got him out, here he is with the Boss Fight Studio irradiated zombie I just got, who is also a 4-inch figure, same as the G.I. Joe. So, there you go. All in all, he's a very cool figure. Like I said, unfortunately, the trade-off for that excellent sculpt, the excellent paint, the good articulation, and the nice accessories, the trade-off for all of that is the fact that the paint application itself can actually freeze up his joints if it's still wet. So you have to be very careful when you open these guys up. Do not force their joints. They will break. You really have to be careful and heat everything up before you really get the most out of the figure. So anyway, this has been AV. If you like this video, check out my channel. If you like what you see there, then please subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.